Press releases. That's what we're going to be talking about today. All you do is basically type them up and you hit send and it's over and life's magical and it's amazing and your name gets out there, right? It's very, very easy. No, wrong. So today we have a really great episode for you. I'm going to be sitting with Ryan Mason, who is the publisher and founder of Heliweb magazine. He's going to be kind of giving us a behind the scenes look, a tour, if you will, of what goes on with these publishers and editors and giving us some tips on how to really take your press release, optimize it so you can really get the best results out of it. So I'm Danny Gonzalez. We're in the beautiful Optimum Production Studios, and this is IndustrialSage.
Welcome to IndustrialSage, a free weekly video podcast series all about digital marketing for industrial manufacturers. Hear interviews with your peers and find out how they're solving the same challenges that you might be facing in your own field. Coming to you from the Optimum Production Studio in Atlanta, Georgia, this is IndustrialSage.
All right, let's go ahead and jump into this episode. Very excited. Ryan, thanks so much for joining us today. So before we get all into all this stuff, can you introduce yourself to our audience so they can get to know you a little bit? Tell us a little about yourself.
Sure. I'm Ryan Mason. I am the CEO and publisher of Heliweb magazine. And we've been in operation for just about 3 years now, but I've been in the industry for almost a decade and learned a lot over that period and as everything evolves. As far as social media and print publication versus web publication versus video and pretty much the whole gamut of how that all works.
Awesome. So Heliweb, so just what industry is it particularly focused on?
Well, Heliweb, pretty explanatory on the, we're a helicopter-based industry publication. Yeah. So we deal with everything from the largest helicopters that will carry 19, 20 passengers all the way through to having the smaller two-seater training aircraft. And we cover everything from industry growth and trends to accidents to profiling of companies and everything else in the industry that we can come across, basically.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense there. So I imagine that you do a lot of work with manufacturers.
We do.
Yes, and we know too that a lot of these manufacturers just love magazines, like the trade magazines. Why? Yeah. You guys bring a lot of value. You guys have access to database. You have viewers. You have an audience that they're trying to position their product for. Some are directly like niche, saying this is exactly in the aviation industry, exactly for helicopters, and some maybe not. Maybe it's there's applications for their product that goes into it. But regardless, trade magazines are huge. There's just a huge need there. So one of the things we have some conversations on is on the editorial side. And looking from the PR value, everyone knows there's huge value to be able to have stories and stuff done by you, but maybe there's some ways that some manufacturers could be doing things a little bit better. What are some tips and some tricks on how to actually approach a magazine or approach an editor or a publisher to sort of pitch some content to be there? Are there some good ways and some bad ways?
Very, very much so. So. One of the things that I try to do with our manufacturers and our OEMs and the people that are trying to sell their products and market what they're doing and show the industry new successes and things of that nature, we get inundated sometimes with press releases. Mm-hmm. Right around, we have a show coming up in a month and it is, we just get absolutely smashed, about 60 releases, if not more a day.
That's a lot.
And it's a lot, especially when you've got somebody who's trying to manage that content and get it out to the people.
And you have to sift through it and go
very much
that,
so.
Yeah.
So one thing I would say in relation to trade shows, if you have something, a lot of people like to squirrel away their press releases and keep them, like right now, because we're a month out from a show,
right.
Everybody's squirreling away their press releases. Now, there are people that want to be in our print magazine. The biggest edition we do each year is at this show. Mm-hmm. And so the OEMs that are savvy with what we do, they say we have this product and we're going to be selling, and here it is, here's an embargoed press release, okay? Can't go out until the first day of the show. Well, that's fortunate. Our magazine goes out the first day of the show and that's the first time people see it. So they know 100% that we're not going to blow that embargo because the magazine's going to be there when it's ready to go out. Right. Now, same with digital, we try and coordinate that it goes out at the exact same time. Mm-hmm. Now, the problem that we end up having is all of these people are competing for our attention, 60 different releases in one day. And that's
a lot. That's ongoing, right?
On a 4-day period, correct. It is absolutely a nightmare. So get it to us early. The other thing is, the one thing when we put out news, especially if we're very busy,
Yeah.
we're going to go to the release that is the most engaging. If the first part of your release says New York Stock Exchange code date names who you are, okay, we already know who you are because there's a letterhead at the top that tells us who you are. And so we don't need any of that stuff. The other point is, when we put our news out to our industry, they want to know, they want to read a story.
Yeah.
They don't want to read a verbatim, the way that you would tell somebody if you were the greatest success and that you're patting yourself on the back. Use humility when you're writing this stuff. And the quicker that you can get it to us that is in a format that we can more or less cut, paste, put in there, that is a story that somebody wants to read, the more that our industry is going to read it.
So make it easy, essentially. That's what you're talking about.
The KISS theory, yes.
Well, I'm interested. So the story aspect you're talking about, I'm really interested in that because that's a big thing. We are big on story, and it's a big thing in marketing in general. Is really telling a good story. What's a good example and a bad example of that?
So a good example for us, if and I have a couple of manufacturers who are really good and they've listened to the couple of tips that I've given them over the years and said, look, our industry want to read a story. And one of the things that a lot of our manufacturers don't realize is that if you send us something that's under 300 words, Google's going to penalize us. Therefore, Google's going to penalize that story, and your story is going to go out to less people because Google says, nope, that's under our established guidelines. And listen, these things are fluid; they change all the time. These guidelines
absolutely.
of exactly what you can do, and I mean, especially when it's news, there's a thing called Google News.
Yeah.
Now, Google News, for anybody who sets up these alerts, it's kind of like an RSS feed, but it's specific target for what you're looking at. If you want to know if you're being picked up, you have a Google News alert set for your company's name, and you'll see every single thing that's put out. Now, if you do that and you look in our industry, you might see your news go out by 5 different publishers. And 4 of those publishers are going to get it. They want to be first.
Yeah.
And they want to get it out there and bang, we're first. Yay! Look, everybody, look how great we are. But it's a verbatim press release. Now, when somebody clicks on that, you're going to get that click, and you're going to get a 0.24 second bounce rate because they're going to look at it. They're going to go,
And
that's
they're gone.
verbatim, and
Boom.
they're out.
Done.
Whereas they look at ours and they go, oh, that's completely different. There's the title's different. So if you want to give it a title, great. Give it a great title. Give it something that's engaging. The first thing that people want to hear. They read that and they go, I want to read that. The second is give it a subtitle. These are these are must-haves for our systems.
Yeah.
And then make sure that you mention keywords. Make sure if you want your name, whether it be the product or the vendor, the name, make sure you put that in both the title and the subtitle and the first paragraph. That's guaranteed to get hits. That's going to make sure it meets all of our requirements through Google.
Right, yeah.
And then on top of that, you're going to get hits and it's going to get picked up more. On top of that, make it engaging.
Good example of engaging, because I know that that can be a little subjective, right?
Standard story is that we get, and here's a bad example for you. Hi, we're a vendor and we're at this trade show. And it's 40 words.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, you know how they meet that 300 word? They'll write 360 words about themselves at the bottom, about who they are and what they do. And in this industry, everybody already knows what you do, especially if you're an aircraft manufacturer.
Sure.
They know you make helicopters.
Right.
Pretty sure.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we want to do to say to these guys is we're not going to use that content because everybody knows it.
Right.
And sometimes
It's not unique.
when you exactly, and now if you're competing for the attention at a trade show,
Right.
you've got to have the big news. Okay, and unless you've got something big and beautiful that everybody's going to want to film footage of and take photos, if not, and it's something great but it's very small, make sure that press release is engaging. So give it to us in a story format and tell us what it is, why it's so great, and how it improves on anything else in the industry. And if we can look at that in that 30-second scan that you're going to get, that's going to be a lot less than that. No.
Sure.
If you can get our attention in 5 to 7 seconds with that headline and subheading, then you've got it. But that's going to make us read. But then if we read along and we see that heading about such and such, manufacturer or whatever, because that's what it has a heading about this. And if it's written about somebody doing business with somebody else, you've got about the company and you've got about the other company.
Yeah.
And that fills up 500 words, which nobody wants to read that. They want to read about what's the news, what's new, why do I want to read about it?
Right.
So make it engaging.
So you mentioned the 300 word minimum, but you also mentioned there with 5. Is there like a certain you want to hit at 300 and be like
over
done
is no
there?
problem.
Okay, over is no
problem.
Right.
Under is a big problem.
Okay,
yeah,
all right.
Because it's going to give us a big red flag and say not a good idea.
All right.
So then we're having to search for, and in a trade show environment or when there's a lot of news happening, we're going to gloss over those ones that don't meet, like right off the bat.
Yeah, because you're saying I don't want to deal with this. I don't have time. I want to get to
or it's going to go to the bottom of the pile,
Yeah.
and maybe we'll get to it at the end of the day, but you put your press release out at 10 a.m. and my online news staff get to it at 5 p.m. because they just kept putting it to the back because it didn't fit and it had to be custom, pulled out and a story written about it. We sometimes have time for that. At a trade show, never. It's got to be ready, rock and roll, ready to go.
Okay. What other tips, as far as making it easier for the publisher, for the editor? Is it exclusive to that press release, or?
I think in general, one is having a relationship with that person.
Sure. Yeah.
And that can be as simple as making a phone call, knowing who your online editors are at the publications, because depending on the size of the publication, it might be a one-man show, it might be a three-man show. I have an online editor who that's his job. He literally puts all of this stuff online, and he will decide what goes first, what goes second, because usually related to how quickly it can be done. And that's just in general. But have a relationship with that person, know their email, and if you have something and you can develop that relationship, and if you have something that is going to release on a certain day, make sure you get it to them early. Give them the chance to, because we can put things in our system, and if it's embargoed till 9 a.m. Monday, then we can put in our system 9 a.m. Monday, and it will auto-publish at that period, okay? And it'll auto-publish out to our website and then all of our social media channels. So that's the other thing is about social media. Make sure it's friendly with that.
Yes.
Ask the publisher, what is your output image size? Because we constantly, and this is another thing that will 100% get you put to the back of the line, is if you give us a tiny little picture or a cell phone picture that is horrible quality, make sure the pictures are quality and that they meet or exceed our size expectations. So in my head, I can immediately tell you our image size is 745 by 545. Okay, that's what our screen says. That's perfect. So it'll come in full resolution. It won't be distorted in any way, shape, or form, and it'll perfectly fill the box of when you get onto our website and we have scrolling news. Okay, so about every 2 seconds, it's going to scroll and say, "Here's the latest news," and it's going to show that picture. Now, if you don't have a picture, you're more automatic. If we have to look for it, we're pretty much going to drop it. We don't have the time when there's more coming in. So make sure it's a good quality picture. Make sure it's exported for web instead of just, we're just going to do a JPEG. Exporting for web is something that we could get into a whole other story about. Sure. But again, that's one of those things that if you are a key marketer and you know what you're doing, you put that out there and you 100% know that when they put it out there, it's a story, it's got a great picture, the picture's sharp, the picture's the right size, dimension, or higher, because we can always pull it down, no problem. It's the problem is if you send somebody a 300 by 200 image
and you can't
they
really
have
scale
a
that
7,
up a lot.
No, you absolutely cannot.
It's going to be all pixelated.
It's going to be terrible.
Actually, technical question, okay. Technical geeking question here. So you've actually mentioned there, so you can set an actual image size that's larger than that 768 or whatever.
You can always bring it down.
Okay, so because I was just curious, I know there's sometimes, when you put, if images have to, if the browser, for example, has to like resize it there. Like, are you guys actually resizing that, or is that, because I know that can affect sometimes.
Yes, so definitely you're going to get some resizing. Myself and my staff, we will make sure that is done outside of our web environment. So we're not going to use WordPress to resize it because WordPress can do all kinds of weird stuff. Sometimes you think, oh, this is great. I can change this to the exact dimensions, and then you do it, but the dimension of it, the ratio of the way it's formatted, it's going to squeeze it the wrong way.
So I mean, that totally makes a lot of sense. Really, it's just a good insight of just getting to understand what's the behind the scenes over here. You have these publishers and saying, it's kind of like sales, right? I mean, with sales. And with this, you really want to make it easy for you guys. So it's like, hey, let's make sure that we have all of our chances are up here so that you guys don't have to go do all this stuff on the back end. Like, oh, gosh darn it, they gave us this image that's whatever, and now we got to go dig around.
If you look at publishers, as kids with ADHD. That's essentially like if there's a trade show or if it's a busy news period, depending on what's going on. I mean, there can be, and it's an unfortunate situation in our industry, there can be a major crash going on. There can also be a new launch at the same week of a new helicopter, or there'll be breaking news of a new testing development, something that's big. So once you've got 3 or 4 of those things going on, and then you get somebody who sends you something with no image,
it's not ready to go.
It's out the door. I mean, we have the attention span of a mosquito when it comes to that. It's just like, and we're done, because it's flicked to the side, and we go to the stuff that actually is formatted well, and we can actually make sure gets out there quickly. We're not out there to make it first. We're never first, we're always right. That's what I say to my staff is, we're never first, we're always right. We want to make sure that our story is on point. We want to make sure that it's readable. We want to make sure that it hits all the things that we need to for an SEO's perspective. And then on top of that, we want to make it engaging and something that people want to continue to return to our website for.
No, that's fantastic. I mean, that's great stuff. I mean, it's, again, everyone, PR is such an important thing, and it's very important. It's important that you get everything right, and that, you know, if you're checking all the boxes there and be able to give all that content and have a good experience for you guys, they're gonna get a good experience in the back end. And I think it sounds like it's an easy way to kind of say, hey, look, let's reassess this and just kind of make sure that we're buttoned up so that way, you know, we're good to go. I mean, unfortunately, it takes a little thing called work.
It does, but once you get a workflow going, and that's the way, unfortunately, Google changes the way they do things. All of the social media channels change the way they do things regularly because they're still learning how they're doing business, as much as we are, and trying to actually keep on top of that is one thing, but we have a checklist within the back end of our website that says check that all of these things are done. And if they're not, we don't launch. Now, if one of those is going to take a little bit longer, we're going to go with something that's easier. Now, but on top of that, if you are that PR person or that marketing person and you're sending out that release, have your own checklist. Does it meet this? Does it meet that? All of these things that, my list is just one small piece. I'm not every publisher, we're all different. But in the way that we do business, that's how some of the things that we need to hit. Some of them, I guarantee you, are right across the board. You know, image size is going to be highly specific to your website and how it's set out. But, you know, bigger is better, higher resolution is better. Real cameras versus cell phones, very much so, and very much landscape versus portrait.
Thank you.
Yes.
It's a video guy.
I have literally tried to put lipstick on a pig multiple times in the early days with portrait images, and they just don't work. And that's, again, the quickest way to get you dropped off the end of that.
No, that's great, and I love it. So basically the key word there, checklist. So I know in the aviation industry, not everyone is in aviation who's and part of our audience here, but in the aviation industry, you live or die by that.
Absolutely.
True. Like, you could die by that.
You could forget one thing, you can absolutely plummet out of the sky, you bet.
All right. No, it's a great conversation. Anything else you want to add to it?
As far as, the relationship is very important. The website stuff is important. Make sure your social media is buttoned up. Okay, there is nothing worse than if you are a manufacturer, and I have one manufacturer, a major manufacturer. Now, intellectual property is one thing. Okay, own your intellectual property. Make sure you have your brand. Be on the lookout for fake accounts. I have one manufacturer where I go to tag them because I try to tag, and this is a way. It's marketing 101. Okay, making sure that your advertisers are getting tagged when they put out stuff, so that they know to share information coming from our channel because it's going to be a lot stronger than theirs. Some manufacturers might have 1,000 followers. We have tens of thousands.
Right. So leverage that. Leverage the network.
Correct. Yeah. Send that out, but knowing full well that that's going to then benefit you. But the problem being is if, like this one manufacturer, you have, I think one of them has 9 different pages that say the exact same thing as their brand, that is their brand. And look, I get it, it's social media. However, cease and desist letters and things of that nature, and employing the tools that are available to you by the social media platform. For instance, Facebook, which is the one I'm talking about specifically with this manufacturer, has so many different ones that are exactly the same, but they're not the official ones. It's so diluted that I can't tag the manufacturer because of the diluted ones, because they are the ones that come up when I go to tag them. It's horrible.
It's to their detriment.
Correct. So the point being is, own your IP. If somebody has hijacked your IP, cease and desist letters, use the social media platforms, tools to say, we are the owner of this. This is who
Right.
we are. They'll ask you to verify who you are, but as soon as they realize it, they'll start going through those
everything's
people
gone.
and punching them out.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that happens Instagram, Twitter, and on Facebook especially, because every man and their dog wants to hijack those and then say, hey, we'd like to, get some money for that. Well, guess what? Intellectual property doesn't work that way a lot of
Right.
the time. So you can use that and leverage it back.
Well, awesome. Now, this has been a great conversation. Tons of great information here. We could probably go on for hours.
Yes, no doubt.
But I think we'll go ahead and cut it off here. But if anybody has any other questions, would love to reach out to you. What's the best way of being able to contact you?
Easiest way to get a hold of me is via email, ryan@heliweb.com.
Perfect. Ryan at
Be
heliweb.com.
happy to try and give anybody any pointers that that I can help them improve on any ways. No problem at all.
Ryan, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for
You're
this.
welcome.
And hey, listen, great episode. We're going to go ahead and recap here. A lot of things under PR. We all know that this is a really important part of marketing. And let's take some of these tips. Some of the quick takeaways on here is one, making sure you're buttoned up when you actually submit your press release to people and different publishers. And going through that checklist. There's checklists in the back end. Making sure you have things like the right images that are sized. Making sure they're not like tiny little postage stamp. Making sure they're the good size there. Making sure that you're telling a story and not just saying, hey, we're going to be here and this is amazing. Oh, everyone really cares about that. They really don't. So engage your audience. Make it easier for the publisher so they can take your content and get it out there easier. Think about that in the back end. Think of like sales a little bit. A lot of other things in this episode. So listen, as always, thanks for watching this. Be sure to share this and tag other people that you think that might be that might get a lot of value out of this. If you're listening on iTunes, we'd love a review. And if you have any questions that you'd like us to answer on any future episodes, you can reach out to us at something happened here, but I'm going to keep rolling because whatever. IndustrialSage.com/questions. We'd love to answer this for you. And as always, thanks again for watching this episode. Industrial Sage will be back next week with an awesome episode.